Hello and welcome to this edition of Mr. Wood's awesome math class. So today, looking at solving by factoring. So trying to find the roots, trying to find the x-intercepts of a quadratic equation. So here we go. All right, so when you're trying to factor, the very first thing you want to think, well, let's see, here's A, here's B, here's C. So I know A here is 1, B here is -2, C here is -8. So the way I like to think about it is let's break this apart. So what are the factors of A? So what are the factors of 1? So the only thing that this could be would be factors of 1, or 1 times 1, or m times m. And then we want to say, well, what are the possible factors of C? Well, possible factors 1 times 8 or 2 times 4. Well, these factors have to multiply to C, but somehow combine to make B. So the only way out of these factors that you can make a -2 would be to use 2 and 4. So I could use 4 and 2. Now, it doesn't matter what order you put these in. It does matter the signs, though. So the only way you can get a -2 would have to be a -4 plus 2. Well, let's verify that this does work. Well, I know that A times A, so m times m, does give me m squared. I know that -4 times +2 does give you -8. And if you combine these, or I like to say, kind of think about it as cross multiply these, m times 2 would give you +2m, and -4 times m would give me -4m. And when I put those together, what do I get? I get m squared. 2 minus 4 would give me -2m and -8. So yes, this is the correct factor for this. So this would be m minus 4 times m plus 2. And if I wanted to solve them, we set both equal to 0. So m minus 4 equals 0. So m equals 4. M plus 2 equals 0. So m equals -2. So that is our answers. That is our x-intercepts, or our intercepts for this particular equation. So if you were looking at the graph, it would cross over here at 4 and over here at -2, and so your graph that would be your two x-intercepts for that type of graph. Okay, looking at the very next problem, well, factors of A, so factors of r squared would be r times r, and factors of 32. So what are our options for 32? 1 times 32, 2 times 16, let's see, what else? 4 times 8. So those are our only options there. So we can either add these together or subtract them, right? So 1 plus 32, if I add them together, doesn't get me a 4. If I subtract them, doesn't get me a 4. 2 and 16 added together would be 18. 2 and 16 subtracted together would be 14, not a 4. 4 and 8 added together would be 12. 4 and 8 subtracted together would be 4. So it would have to be 4 and 8, right? So if I do 8 minus 4, so this would be a +8, that would give me the +4. So that would be, right, the cross multiply piece, that'd be 8r. This would be -4r if you were to cross multiply. If I were to combine these together, that does equal +4r, right? If I multiply a times a, gives me r squared. -4 times +8 gives me -32. And yes, we verified that we do have the correct answer. So that is our factors. So the factors r minus 4 and r plus 8. Set both of them equal to 0 and solve. So r would equal 4, r plus 8, and r would equal -8. So there's our answers for our x-intercepts. All done, nice and easy. So now let's look at one that A is not 1. All right, here we go. Let's look at this problem. Well, the very first thing when you're graphing or trying to solve, they have to be equal to 0. So in other words, I have to move that 3 over here with this -10. So we'd have to add 3 to both sides. Okay? So if I do that, that's going to give me then 2m squared minus 13m. And -10 plus 3 would be -7. And that's equal to 0. So once again, looking at what are the factors of A. So only factors of A are 2 and 1. And factors of 7 would be 1 and 7. So what are my options there? Let's see how that works. So I have to be able to somehow cross multiply these to make 13. So let's see, 7 and 1. So if I cross multiply 2 times 7, that gives me 14m, and 1 makes 1. So out of a 1 and a 14, we can make a -13, right? So 1 minus 14. So that means that 2 times 7 has got to be -14. So this has got to be a -7, and that's got to be a +1. So let's see, did this work? So 2m times 1m, that is 2m squared. So a times a, or the first times the first, gives me that. The last times the last, 1 times -7 is -7. And then when you cross multiply -14 and +1, well, that is -13. So yep, that does work. That gives me exactly what I started with. So that is my factors. If I take both of them and set them both equal to 0 now, 2m plus 1 equals 0. Subtract the 1 from both sides. So 2m equals -1. Divide both by 2. And we get m equals -1/2. And the other, m minus 7 equals 0. And m equals 7. So that would be my 2 intercepts or 2 roots. Same thing there. Nice and easy. And we have those as, there's other ways that you could get this, but that's one of our potentials. All right, moving on. Let's look at 15. So 15, first thing we need to do is move the 5 over. So that would be 2b squared minus 9b. And then it would be minus 5 equals 0, because we have to subtract 5 from both sides. And now we can break this apart and factor it out. So only factors of 2 that exist are 2 times 1, right? And only factors of 5 that exist are 1 times 5. We just got to figure out, where do I put them in order to make the 9? Well, if I put the 5 there and the 1 there, 2 times 5 makes 10b. And 1 times 1 makes 1b. And to make the -9, 1 minus 10 does make -9. So 2 times -5 makes -10. So that would be that. All right, so we're done with our factor. Now just set both factors equal to 0. So 2b plus 1 equals 0. And b minus 5 equals 0. Subtract 1 from both sides. 2b equals -1, divide both by 2, so I get b equals -1/2, and b equals 5. And those would be how we solve for x-intercepts or roots for problems where a is not 1. All right, let's try one more, and then you guys should be able to handle these on your own. Right, so we know they have to be equal to 0, so we're going to add 6 to both sides. That would give me 8m squared minus 39m plus 28. Well, there's a couple of different options here. Now A, so my A group is 8. Well, it could be 1 and 8 or 2 and 4. Okay, so there's options that we could try. So if I try, let's just try 1 and 8 again. So if I try 8m and 1, let's see how that works out. And factors of 28. So 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 4 and 7. So let's see, whatever this multiplies to, we got to be close to a 39. So however this cross multiplies to, and the other little trick I'll show you. If C is a positive, only way this could be positive is either both are plus or both are minus, right? Because a minus times a minus makes a positive, and a positive times a positive makes a positive. So either both are positive or both are negative to make the positive at the end. Well, if B is negative, well, a positive and a positive don't make a negative. So that means that somehow both of these have to be negative. So they're going to have to add together, both being negative. Little things that we can learn as we go. All right? So I know that 8 times something and something times 1 has to be close to 39. Let's see. Well, maybe 8 times 4, and let's try that. So 8 times 4 was 32, and 7 times 1 is 7. So I got a 7m and a 32m. I know that they have to add together because it's a plus at the end. So 7 plus 32 does make 39. And we said that both of them had to be negative in order to make it a negative 39. Well, does that work? Sure. So 8 times 1 is 8m squared. Negative 7 times negative 4 is positive 28. And when you combine negative 7m and negative 32m, you get negative 39m. So yes, this is the correct factors. So that is my correct factor. So I can take both of them, set them both equal to 0, and solve out. So 8m minus 7 equals 0. Add the 7 over. 8m equals 7. Divide by 8. So m is equal to 7 divided by 8. And m minus 4 equals 0. Add the 4 over. So m equals 4. So there are your 2 answers for factoring or solving by factoring, all done. Hopefully this was helpful and gets you to where you need to be with solving by factoring. See you next time.